Welcome to the Sacramento Living Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Tremayne, and today's episode is a little different. On my YouTube channel, you may have seen that I have a What's It Like to Work With Me video, particularly pertaining to how I represent buyers, and it is very serious. I watched through it and it's so serious. I'm thinking people are not going to think that I'm fun to work with. So this is going to be why you should work with me, the unserious edition, because like I said, I just think that I was being very serious in that video. And I was trying to bring value to you guys. Okay. I'm trying to bring you value. I want you to know that I'm a professional and I have all these credentials and I really take my job very seriously when I work with buyers and with sellers in the real estate market in Sacramento. And I'm also like a real life person. I'm not a robot. So, all right. So we're going to talk about the 6 reasons that I think it's great to work with me in a kind of unserious fashion today. Number one, I'm Scrappy. And if you get to hang out with me ever, like in a unprofessional way, I'm a little scrappy. And what's interesting is it usually comes out when I'm protecting others. I have this innate sense of justice and I want things to be fair. And so that really comes out in my negotiations. It makes it easy for me to kind of go to bat for my clients. It makes it easy for me to be the bulldog that you need me to be when it comes to negotiating for your bottom line or negotiating for the terms that you want, or just getting you the property that you want in maybe a competitive situation. I'm not afraid to compete. I'm not afraid to fight for my clients. And so, yeah. And then, because I have that inclination to, I'm not going to say argue, but I'm not afraid to argue my points. I'm not afraid to, argue for my clients or for the sake of justice, if you will. So I wound up really diving deep into negotiations and kind of nerding out in that space. And I wound up getting certified as a negotiations expert. So, I got that going for me and it's going for you too, right? Because you want to have a negotiation expert on your side. But I will say I'm a bulldog for my clients, but I'm not cutthroat. And so if you're looking for somebody that's like cutthroat and really goes for the jugular, I like to play hardball, but I will tell you this. Whenever you're in a situation where you need to negotiate something and you want to get something, AKA real estate, right? We're all trying to get something. You're trying to get the house or you're trying to sell your house to this person and they're trying to buy the house or they're selling the house to you, right? We have to work with people, which means that we need to be kind of cognizant that they also want to win. And if all you want to win is at other people's expense, then a lot of negotiations just fall through and you wind up not getting what you want. So I am of the mind that a win-win is always better. That doesn't mean you lose. The other person winning doesn't mean that you lose. In fact, a great negotiator is going to help the other side win while also getting what they want and getting the best deal. That's why it's good to work with me, because I'm not afraid of that fight and to be the bulldog, but also I know how to keep these deals together and make sure that we don't lose something that you actually want to gain in the process, right? Okay, so number 2, I grew up in this, but I didn't grow up when I say I grew up in this, I mean like the real estate game. I didn't grow up in it in the sense that my parents are realtors and they all sold real estate. I grew up with parents that bought properties that needed work and they redid things within the property. They added value. So the first house my parents bought, they built a second story onto it. And so that added value. And then they sold that property and they moved out of state, out of California, actually. And they bought a piece of land and then they bought another house and they remodeled that. And I lived through that remodel. And then they bought a piece of land and they built a home from the ground up. I lived through home builds. And then they've done that ever since. And so they just buy properties and now they have rentals. And so I grew up in Home Depot. I grew up with houses being torn apart, watching my mom draw plans. My mom lays tile. She works with wood. And then eventually my brothers got into construction and then I got into real estate. So we have a legacy in our family of being involved with mechanics, housing, or how houses are built, the mechanics of houses. So I kind of know about houses intuitively in a sense because I grew up in this environment from the time I was born until I do this for my own properties as well. Every property I buy, I build it up and remodel it and make it better than when I found it. So this is just kind of like a part of me. And that's lended to my clients too. That's lended a lot of value to my clients because I can point things out that maybe the average person wouldn't really know is a problem or could potentially be a problem or isn't right. Materials, brands, how things are applied to the building, how things work. I have a really great sense intuitively of how those things work, but then I also have the education behind it as well, because I too am remodeling properties and upgrading things and constantly in hardware stores and looking at tiles and looking at bath fixtures and looking at appliances and seeing what's really good, what's high end, what's mid grade, what's the best bang for your buck, and all of these vendors around town as well. I have access to those vendors at the different scale, and different levels. So I know houses. That is great for buyers. It's also great for sellers. I can talk to you about what you need to do to upgrade your property that's actually going to get you money, because a lot of times property upgrades are not intuitive. And so sellers are putting out money on items that don't actually get them the results that they want, which is more value. They want to sell their home for more money. So they say, okay, let's remodel the kitchen. And that's a whole other episode on picking the right professionals to do the job, designing properly, and all of that to make sure that you actually get the return that you're looking for. Yeah, so I do know houses intuitively. And when I walk into a house, I feel things. And so when you work with me, you might hear me say, this house feels like it has good bones, because I'm intuitively feeling the property and what it feels like. And I can tell you this house is not good, right? I can point things out that you might not pay attention to. While you're looking at, where does my couch go? Do I like the countertops? Do I like this layout? I'm looking at things a little bit deeper, like the actual systems of the property, the water heater, the HVAC system, the roof. What's the outside look like? Is it made of wood? Is it stucco? All those things that you're just not really thinking about, but they're actually the most important pieces, right? Because it's what make the house functional. And so that's what you get when you buy houses with me. And then as a seller, like I said, I can give you ideas on how to upgrade the property so that you'll actually get a return instead of wasting money. Okay. Number 3, I don't know if this video has been very funny at all, but I think I'm kind of funny. So I brings jokes. No, I just showed property today before I made this video. And my new client gave me the best compliment that I could have ever received. She said, Amy, you're so down to earth. And wow, I just was like beaming because I appreciated that. She said, "You're so down to earth and you're so easy to get along with and you're so like easy to work with." And I said, "That's cool. That's exactly what I want to hear from my clients." And so I am down to earth and I like to joke around and I like to have a fun time. And, life's hard enough. Buying a house can be really hard. It can be stressful. Selling a house can be really hard. It can be stressful for people. I try to make it as easy as possible, as streamlined as possible. I want you to feel like it was an enjoyable experience. And sometimes laughter is such a great way to break up the stress of it all, right? And so one time my client was having a really hard time. I went and bought her a handle of vodka because I was like, "You sound like you need lots of drinks, right?" And so fun stuff like that. I try to get to know my clients a little bit more so I can give personalized closing gifts. I hang out with my clients sometimes. We don't have to be friends, but if you're cool, if you're cool, we might get to be friends. Some of my things I've done with my clients is go wine tasting. I've gone to concerts with them, going to the park. Sometimes I make friends with them and our kids get together. It's when you're in this business, you're spending time with people. You're talking to them a lot. It's hard not to get to know each other. It's hard not to like who I work with, and so sometimes I get really lucky and I get new friends out of this too, which is just amazing. Okay, so let's move on to number 4. All right, so when I was younger, I was super into puzzles and like word searches and problem solving. And why is that important? Well, when you're putting together a real estate transaction, there's a lot of puzzle pieces and it's constant problems. And we make it look easy. Your real estate agent, I hope they're making it look really easy, but there's a lot that's going on. Like it's a roller coaster throughout the process of listing your home to the moment you get the check or getting into contract looking for a home to the moment I hand you the keys. It's a roller coaster. There's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There's a lot of, stuff happening. The timeline is tight sometimes. There's a lot of moving parts, so people aren't always doing what they need to be doing. And so this kind of goes back to number 1. I'm scrappy, which means I'm a good liaison. I'm a good advocate for you. And so I'm scrappy and I like puzzles and I like to solve problems. That's perfect. It's perfect for real estate because it's just one giant problem that needs to be solved. It's one puzzle that needs to be solved. And I love doing it. I really do. I think it's also why I like design and why I like remodeling properties and changing things because I can see the puzzle in my head. I can see walls come down. I can see colors change. I can see new floors. I can see it all happening in my head because I was constantly solving puzzles and word searches and things like that. So my mind is kind of in that mode of problem solving, and design is kind of a problem to be solved, right? With a new look. So so I'm kind of like nerdy into that kind of stuff. I love design, but I also love contracts, and the contract is a puzzle to put together. It's also really detailed, and there's loopholes in there. So another part of playing games is finding out how can I win the game. So I'm really into the contract, and I taught the contract to new agents. And so I had to read it line by line over and over and over again. And whenever the changes come out, I go and I take classes and I learn about any kind of contract changes that come out. And how can I use this to my client's best interests? How can I use this to their advantage? And how can agents use this against me? Right? How can people use this contract against my client or against their best interests? So, I think that's pretty valuable to have somebody that likes this business. When you like a business, that means you get really into it. It means that you kind of develop a passion for it. And I think I have I know I have a huge passion for real estate, but not just that, the actual real estate process itself. I really have a passion for making that puzzle fit together really nicely and for my clients to not feel that. They don't have to feel all those pieces moving. I've put them into place for them so they can just enjoy the experience of selling their home or enjoy the experience of buying a home. Okay, number 5, this is going to be woo-woo, if you want to call it that. But my sun sign in astrology is a Libra. And so they have a natural tendency towards fairness and ethics. And man, I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but I just resonate with that so much. I have my whole life been very not by the book. I wouldn't say that. I'm not necessarily by the book, but fairness has been very important to me since I was very young. And if a rule didn't make sense, I had a little bit of a problem with that. So I'm not by the book. You know, I do question things. That's my negotiator. That's my natural negotiator, but I do care about fairness and I do care about right and wrong. And I really wanted to be an attorney. If I could have been an attorney, I think that's what I would have really wanted to do, but life happens. And so real estate gives me kind of a little mini ability, a little mini law. I have to do contract law, right? I have to know contract law. I have to engage in that and negotiate that. And then I also need to know real estate law and ethics. I have to understand ethics so that I'm playing within the rules in a fair way. There's always loopholes and there's always ways to use, your skills to your advantage and to negotiate in your best interest. And fair doesn't mean equal. I think that's a really important thing to make a distinction here. Fair does not mean equal. It just means that everybody feels really good about the outcome. Think about that. Fair does not always mean equal. So I have a natural tendency towards that fairness and towards ethics. And I pride myself in the ethics that I hold for my business personally, and with my clients especially. But one thing to add on to that is that I'm street smart. So there was a point in my life where I wasn't a professional good girl, real estate agent. If you could call me a good girl. Now my life's boring and I just sell real estate and take care of kids and do that. But at one point in time in my life, I was a street smart kid and I had to be. And I had to grow up a little too young and fast. So I understand that part of things. Negotiating with people is not just contracts and it's not just ethics and all that. There's manipulation tactics in negotiations. There's street smarts that come along with buying and selling real estate, investing in real estate, and everything in between this business. When it comes to money, how you handle it, having some street smarts and this not being my first rodeo when it comes to people trying to manipulate me it's good for my clients because I can see those things coming a mile away. Whereas I think that if life had turned out a little bit differently for me and I had been, the college girl that went to school and became the lawyer like I had always dreamed, I don't know if I would have all this smarts, right? I might have been super book smart, but I might not have had the street smarts that I got from the life that I did live before I was the good girl real estate agent that I am now. So I think that lends to this business as well. And it helps my clients because not only do I have the credentials and the experience and all that stuff that's good on paper, I also have a backbone and I also have this kind of street smart thing that comes into play for them that really lends to lends to making sure that they get what they want and that I negotiate their best interests. And then number 6 is, before I go on to number 6, I want to say this in my notes. So because I had the life experience that I had, once I got into real estate, this is a big like self-improvement business. Everybody that gets into real estate starts to like go through some self-improvement, because when you start owning a business and having to put yourself out there like that, your stuff comes up and you have to deal with it. So this business is, we go to a lot of seminars, we learn a lot about communication. And so I'm really into psychology. You know, my past life before real estate was colorful. And so I learned a lot about kind of maybe the negative side of things. And so when I started to do self-improvement, I was like, I got a lot of like stuff I need to deal with. And so I started getting into psychology for myself. And then I started learning about psychology in terms of human behavior and how humans behave and how they react to certain things. And y'all, we're a bunch of animals, okay? We have conscious thought and we are something special, and we are still animals. And so there's human nature. And so through all this process, I stumbled into neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis. And you're going to be like, oh crap, this girl's going to hypnotize me into selling my home. That's not true. I'm not going to do that. I can't. You can't hypnotize the unwilling. So don't worry about that. But what has it done? It's taught me how to truly listen to people, to hear beyond their words, and to understand how to communicate better with people, to communicate so well that I can explain really complicated things like real estate, contract law, and negotiations to a 5-year-old and help them understand it. And that means that if I can do that, then that means I can help way more people understand these really complicated topics, and I can make the process easier for my clients. So through neurolinguistic programming, this is really how we speak and how we communicate. So I'm an expert certified communicator, you could say. And then hypnosis. Hypnosis is really interesting. I use it in my coaching because not only do I sell real estate, but I also coach real estate agents and business owners. So if you're a business owner and you're looking to increase your sales, if you're looking to remove any blocks that you might be having, maybe you feel stuck at a level and you're looking to break that glass ceiling and push through, I help people do that. And I use hypnosis techniques to do so because being in a hypnotic state makes you really pliable. It makes it easy for you to make changes internally. And so do I use it on my clients when I'm in the buying and selling processes? No, I'm not using hypnosis on that. I'm really about ethics. So I would have to ask you if it's okay if I hypnotize you. And so I don't usually do that when I'm working in real estate. But I do understand human behavior. I understand how to communicate with people so that we reach great deals and agreements, and where people feel really heard and feel like they understand. And so that's what I did it for, so that I could be better for my clients. Okay. And then number 6, this is going to be my final reason that I think it's cool to work with me. That's very unserious. And it's that this is going to seem serious, but we'll get there. I am a committed and responsible professional. Seriously. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. I live by my calendar. And if I tell you in 6 months, we're going to meet at this coffee shop at this time, you don't even have to check in with me. I'll be there. If it's on my calendar, I'm going to go do it. I might not know why we're meeting. Just kidding. But I'll be there. In fact, I have a funny story. I double booked a dentist appointment both weeks. I had one on a Tuesday, and then the next week I had it on the exact same Tuesday, exact same time. I go to the dentist. A week goes by. It's on my calendar again. I show up at the dentist and they're like, Amy, what are you doing here? You were just here last week. And I said, look, you're on my calendar, and I follow my calendar and I show up where I said I was going to go. So I said I was going to be here. Anyways, I got myself an hour back. I went and had lunch, but I am very committed and responsible. And like I said, my life is boring now. So if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. And if I say I'm going to send you an email, I'm going to send you the email. If I say I'm going to call you at this time, I'm going to call you at that time. I really like to live by my word. And here's the funny part. I think I'm undiagnosed ADHD because sometimes stuff happens and I'm like, oops, like I don't know what to tell you, but it just leaves my brain. So I live by my calendar. I live by tasks, and I set those, and I have systems in place to make sure that I don't drop the ball on my clients because of my squirrel brain. And so if something falls through the cracks, which inevitably, we're all human and that happens sometimes. I own it 100%. I don't give excuses. I don't believe in excuses. I believe in, yep, that's my fault. I'm sorry about that. Please forgive me. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it, and let's move on. And I hope that my clients can give me some grace there, but I have all these systems in place and all these things in place to make sure that I do not drop the ball on you. And so I always tell my clients in my consultations and in my meetings, like, this is serious for me. I take this very seriously. And I have a squirrel brain. So if I ever drop the ball on you, like you text me and I don't text you back right away or in a few hours, like just text me again. Shoot me another text and say, hey, what happened? Or, I'll eventually figure it out. I'll eventually get there. But I really try to always set tasks and be there for my clients and make sure that I'm giving them the best service ever. But, there's just something that I think is kind of funny. It's hard, y'all. It's hard in the background. I've had to work really diligently over the years to set up these systems, these task lists and calendar habits and things, just so that I don't forget that I'm a real estate agent and I have stuff to do. Oh my gosh. I hope my neurospicy people feel me because, yeah. And when you're busy and you're like, I was a single mom for quite some time. And then I owned businesses, a couple businesses, it got to a point where I had rental properties and children and businesses, and it was a lot. Now my life is so much simpler, and all I do right now is sell real estate and coach a few agents. And a few business owners too. So my life is much more simpler. And it's taken all this time, this 11 years in this business, to get to a point where I've got a really great system down, and my clients don't have to feel that burn, Anybody that's been in business knows that you need about 10,000 hours to really become an expert. And I think that's about 5 years in the business. That's when I've been in it for 11 years now. This is going to be my 12th year. And I think that all of that experience has brought me to this point where I feel really good about the value that I bring to my clients. And I feel that I save people from working with someone who might not care as much as I do, who might not hold themselves to a standard the way that I do. And that's why I put myself out there. And that's why I prospect and reach out to people and offer my services, because truly, I actually feel like if I don't, they might get hooked up with somebody, one of these other agents, that isn't always on top of their game, that doesn't have the education or the experience. And, we all have to start somewhere. And I would like my clients to take advantage of my experience and not have to start start with me, the old me when I started in real estate. I'm so grateful to those people that gave me a chance. Um, and, and yeah, I look back on when I started and I've come so far and my business has come so far, and I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. Grateful for the journey. All right. I hope this was fun for you. It was kind of fun for me. A little bit different. I don't always, I'm not always as serious as that video let me out to be. You have to go watch that one now. You have to go watch that one now. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. I would love your support with growing my channel. As also, if you are thinking of buying, selling, investing in the Sacramento area, I would love the opportunity to interview for that position. You just got a little glimpse into what it's like to work with me. Let's sit down and talk about your goals, what you're looking to do in the real estate market, and see if I can measure up to what you have planned. My goal is to help you enact your plans, and I educate my clients and I work as a counselor with them to help them get what they want out of the real estate market. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.